Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life and host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And today, my guest is Ingeborg Mooiweer. Hey, Ingeborg,
Hello, thank you.
all the way from Holland.
Yes,
So thanks for being with us. It's early for me, but later for you, right? In the
yeah,
afternoon. Yeah,
yes, true.
yeah. So just so people can know you, I'm just going to read a short bio. So, Ingeborg is an international expert to the stars and executives in helping people transform challenging lives, sheds light on her pioneering methods. Ingeborg is an international pioneer in transformation whose journey from adversity to empowerment has shaped her mission to change lives worldwide. Ingeborg is an extraordinary artist and profound business strategic lifestyle and personal relationship alchemist. Her remarkable ability to navigate the complexities of human connections goes beyond service level interactions. With a deep understanding of healing and coaching, Mooiweer, Ingeborg guides individuals and organizations towards transformative experiences. Okay, so I know, Ingeborg, just from reading your bio and watching your social media that you have quite a story. We would like to hear your story.
How long do you have?
Oh, we have an hour, so go for it.
Yeah, well, my story started growing up with the narcissistic mother. That was really painful. That was being fearful. That, yeah, sort of got under my skin. The manipulation, the insecurity, the unsafety, well, all sorts of things. I can, elaborate on that a bit more later, but that's how I grew up. My parents got divorced when I was 5, and back then it was normal to stay with your mother, and now you can choose. But back then you couldn't. So I stayed with my brother and myself with my mother. And yeah, it actually it got worse and worse up until the age of 16 when I left the house, um, because it wasn't doable anymore. It was too much, and I was still in high school. I finished my high school. I got onto the hotel management, and later on, I moved to London, where I did hotel management as well, and worked in the luxury hotel industry. Um, and eventually, I came back to Holland, started my corporate career, and in 2000, well, it wasn't sort of like that, but I changed my career onto the field where I'm in now. That was quite a journey as well. Like what it is now, it's in the broader sense in the relationship realm. And but I didn't start it like that in 2000. So that's well, so like 24 years ago. But I had my practice for like 19 years. I did my studies and I did so many things. It's all like in the mind, body, and soul um, area. And obviously the coaching and a lot of energetic work, a lot of body work. So eventually that came into what I do now for the longest period of time. Um, and I use everything that I've learned there, my own experience as well. Because during my life, I had many other things happening to me. And yeah, well, I'll just put it like really easily, but it obviously wasn't. I kept going, well, because I'm still here. And it wasn't easy, not all the time. I had good times, but there were a lot of things happening. I always say, like, I can write a book, maybe three, even of all the things that happened to me. And but yeah, I kept going. I kept going, and last year I had a really rough year as well. and well, I can tell a bit more about that. But that is sort of, well, on an overview what my life has been up till now.
Um, So I noticed that a lot of people these days, I don't remember that earlier many years ago, but now so many people are throwing around the word narcissistic. In other words, they're labeling people who are narcissistic, and I don't even think the people they're labeling are narcissistic. So now there's this general, oh, you're a narcissist. But when you're actually dealing with truly someone who has that mental identity of a narcissist, if you
Mhm.
could just kind of give us the characteristics of a person with that so that we could actually recognize it, the true definition.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Obviously, there's so much about a narcissist, but the characteristics that people may recognize is and I'll put it like in sort of simple words, it's always your fault. They're never the one who's doing something wrong. It's always you. So it's the duality. It's the manipulation it's the gaslighting that they tell you that if you feel something that it's not right, or you shouldn't be feeling that, or you should feel something else, or you should have done something else. um, it's the being scared all the time, not knowing what's going to happen. So the uncertainty, like one time it's really, well, you say something and it's good. And the other day you say exact the same thing and they just explode. Um, that's a thing that people recognize. So the uncertainty, and you're walking on eggshells, to put it that way. You never know what's going to happen, which makes you very fearful. You become hyper alert, that you're scanning the narcissist, so to speak, seeing what's going to happen, see if you can change your ways. So that's what you're going to be, a chameleon, to changing your ways. And then things like the stonewalling, and that's like they stop talking to you, like they ignore you, the silent treatment. And you have to do your best, you have to do work to get into their, well, corner again. That they say, oh yeah, it's okay, once you say sorry or you do stuff, and then they'll be okay with you. um, and it's they change your words. So you say something, and that's the manipulation, and it's really really tricky. You can feel you're digging your own hole, so to speak. But whatever you say, it always has to be something different. And then they go for that one, and you say, but we were talking about that one. So in the end, you start losing your identity. You start doubting yourself. That's the main thing. And you really don't know what's real and what's not. And yeah, that's some characteristics you can notice.
So if someone's in a relationship, obviously a child is, I mean, you're kind of stuck. You were stuck until you're old enough to leave.
Yeah,
But I
exactly.
mean, if you're able to leave that situation, should you leave, or is there any solution? Will that person ever get better, or is it always going to be like that?
Um, well, you mean like if it's your spouse and you
Right.
want to leave? Yeah, you can, obviously, because I did as well. And a spouse is different, obviously, than a parent, but the effect could be the same. Yes, you can rebuild. Your identity is not gone, obviously, because it's inside. But there's so much layers of what I said, the doubt and the uncertainty and the hyper alertness and unsafety. You have to regain that. You have to, yeah, find yourself again. And I would say you always need some sort of therapy, because it's so thorough, it's so deep, it's so severe what they do. It's really hard for people to understand if you're not in that situation. what it's like to be in that situation. And it's not like, oh, why don't you leave him? You know, that's what they say. Why don't you leave her? But you're so entangled in this because of the identity theft almost.
Mhm.
You doubt yourself. So how can you leave someone? Sometimes they still love him or her. They usually try to control the finances as well. So people have no access to their finances. They've been deliberately, you know, like friends and family have been sort of taken away. So you're really on your own.
Mhm.
And then you have to make that step. So that's a really big one. But obviously you can regain, because what I said, your identity is still there, although harmed, and you really need to heal. You need to take time for that, but you can do it, and it's the only way, because you maybe in the beginning you still think, oh, I can change him or her. Maybe if I do my best. Usually very people like empathetic, that they attract sort of narcissists. um, but it's not you. It's not you. Maybe you have to learn something about boundaries, obviously, but it's in them, and they will never change. If it's a real narcissist, if it's diagnosed, it's real narcissist, they never change. So the best thing for you is, then leave.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And it's so hard for people who love helping people to hear that. Like, you just think, well, there's got to be something.
Yeah.
Thing is that if they don't take responsibility for their own actions, then they probably don't think there's anything wrong with them. They probably think they're fine and everyone else is not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because there's a total lack of self-reflection. So although they don't, they're very narcissist, very very insecure in themselves. They don't. Some may know, but usually they have very little self-reflection. So it's never their fault, because it's so someone else's, because there's nothing to back it up. You know, when you're not secure of yourself, you can't say to someone else, oh, I'm sorry, I did it wrong. Let's see, maybe we can change it. They
Mhm.
can't. They can't. They don't have the capacities. They've never learned it, or it's not there either.
Hmm. So do they always have to have someone there with them? In other words, do you see narcissists who just want to live by themselves because it almost sounds selfish, or do they always have to live with someone so they have someone to
They feed off.
feed
They
up?
feed.
That, I mean, I guess that's the word. It sounds
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah, it sounds terrible, but they feed off the energy of the other person. That gives them that sense of grandiose, or they can use them in any sense, like with the finances, or they want to control. And if they're on their own, well, they have control themselves, but they need someone to feed their ego, to feed the identity, to feed off. And that's what they do. The admiration, that's what I like as well. They feel they're entitled to things from you, um, which they're not, but that's what they feel, and they do anything to get that. So to keep up that, the facade, really.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if someone is choosing either, they're dating or they're choosing a business partner or even just friends, close friends, what are red flags to know, like, oh, I shouldn't go any closer to this person because they're sense dangerous.
No good. No good. Yeah, well, that depends, but usually you have you have different type of narcissist. Well, a lot of times, what I hear with clients as well, suffering from narcissistic abuse, um, it's the love bombing. word most people have heard of, that they come on very strong. You're the most lovely woman in the world or man. You get flowers. They want to take you on a holiday real quick. They've waited for you all their life. There's no one like you. Well, things we all like to hear maybe at some stage, but it's really a lot. When they start off. And they share a lot of information about themselves, even like in details. And the thing is, with like an emotional healthy relationship, you do share, but like, yeah, I always explain it like you have a whole book, that's your life, and you give them one chapter, and then a few days later you get maybe another chapter, or you read to them. But a narcissist will give you like the whole book. Like maybe say on the first date or the few dates, and they do that to sort of try to get you into their life, like make you trust them and that you feel special because they share all these details and their pains and whatever, apart from the fact it might not even be true. But they share all that, and then you get sort of lured into their life, feeling special and things like that. And that's a sort of honeymoon phase, very quick, and usually very short.
Mhm.
And then after a while, it's sort of changed. Well, hopefully you never get to that stage that it will change, that you feel you recognize the red flags, and you don't go further in the dating. Um, but the thing is, it usually people who are very codependent and empathetic, very social, so they sort of go for it. They want to hear that. They've never heard it. Then someone comes along, and that's how they get lured into it.
Mm.
And another thing is that if you, I don't know if that happens, but sometimes it does, if you say something that you don't agree with them, or you feel like there's some, do you say that the stories don't line up, and you confront them with it, they get angry or they brush it off. And another thing is they have no room for your feelings. So when there's a problem and they don't see it, they don't acknowledge it, they just brush it off. Well, that's a telltale sign as well, because that's not what emotionally healthy people do. So, yeah, I'm sure there are people there who recognize this sort of behavior in people, and it could be in work as well, huh?
Mhm.
Yeah, your boss or colleagues or whatever, things like this happen there, obviously, as well.
Yes, yes. So going back to your childhood and you leaving at 16, obviously you had to know something was wrong when you compared yourself or your situation to maybe your friends' families or things like that. Where does your journey start back to you? And how did you start that journey? How did you even know what to do?
Um, well, I think I was about maybe 21 or 22, because what you just said, I always felt somewhere inside of me that it wasn't right. And obviously I suffered a lot, because and that obviously I knew that that wasn't right. But maybe the same thing happened, what I said earlier, maybe back in the days, it wasn't really like now that you can find information or that you would compare to other kids or that you could talk to someone, so it wasn't like that. But I could see, with friends and stuff like that, that their parents were different, that I could see. And you would sort of feel like, why is my mother not like that? Um, but yeah, then I start looking for help, and so I had therapy as well. I did, well, different things, and the work as well, what I started in the personal development helped me as well. Because if you want to be a therapist yourself, you obviously have to have dealt with your own issues.
Mhm.
And have to be able to stay here and not jump into the story of my client. So that helped me as well. So it's like an ongoing thing, but the big part I did, yeah, I think when I started like 22, and it goes in sort of phases, like trauma. That's what trauma does. It doesn't like sort of open up everything all at once. You need time, because especially like growing up, and what I said about the identity, it's in everything. So you feel it and you notice it in so many situations. So it's not sort of clear cut, like, oh, I've done that, it's gone. It's some things will come up, let's say when I got kids, because then I became a parent, and I was, to be honest, quite scared that I might do the same, and now I know, and even maybe back then I knew that I wasn't like her, but
Mhm.
you feel like, oh, am I going to do it right? Yeah, because what's my because obviously I've got a father, but um, the example, what's my example? And now I have, and I want to do it different.
Mhm.
So that's kind of vulnerable as well. That you want to do it different. Obviously, give them a good upbringing.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that's, well, I think I did a good job.
Mhm.
I'll hear it from them later on. But I hear from many people that I did a good job. So, I made some choices,
Uh-huh.
really deliberate choices. One of them is that I wanted them to grow up with a lot of self-esteem,
Mhm.
which I didn't have back then.
Mhm.
Uh, and that their feelings, they got room for their feelings. We can talk about it. I won't judge, things like that. So I made really deliberate decisions to do it different.
Mhm.
Um, well, and I think, well, what I said, I'm going to hear, but I think I did a pretty good job, or we did a pretty good job. Um, yeah, to get to, yeah, they're very sort of certain, solid, with a lot of self-esteem boys.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
So, and I know you help other people navigate this too, but once you've been in a narcissistic situation, is it
Mhm.
easy to attract that same type of situation again? Is there something about the person that ends up in that? Obviously, you were born into it, but
Yeah.
there's I was in a situation where it was like that. It was very short because I recognized it quickly,
Yeah.
but you know, are we doing something that it, attracts that, or is it just our own healing that needs to be healed? Like if we've been in a situation like yours, is it just healing as you go along? Are you still attracting those people?
Well, now I don't anymore. And I recognize it. Say someone comes along. Um, but the thing is not necessarily that you do something, but what happens is that what I said earlier, like you have people like really sort of codependent, empathetic, socially focused on the other. Um, they have room for that. Their boundaries are not really firm. They have a tendency to move towards the other person rather than stand their ground and feel what they need.
Mhm.
Um, so they have people like that with codependency have a tendency to attract narcissists. And the thing is with like, if you have a wound for whatever reason, for trauma or lack of things you needed back then, unmet needs, and the narcissist obviously has a wound, then you get a trauma bond. And that's really hard to get out of, because the thing you need to do is heal yourself. And then with the boundaries and knowing where you stand and with self-esteem and everything, then you can make the move. And then you don't attract people like that anymore, because you're not attractive to the narcissist as well, because he feels he can't manipulate you. And because maybe the first date they'll say something, you think, oh, I don't like that. And you leave it, and you're not going to do what you always did, like work harder or please them, or think, oh, maybe it doesn't mean like that, or oh, it's just the first date, let's see what happens the next one, and then you're sort of, well, give it away. You start giving it away again. So yeah, it's your inner healing, what makes you not attractive to the narcissist anymore. And then you can start attracting healthy relationship, a healthy person.
So when I was reading your bio, there's a lot more to your story, Camino journey, and some people know what that is and some people don't know what that is. So why don't you tell us about that? How did you decide to go on that journey, and what is it? Where is it?
Yeah, the Camino is a pilgrimage route, or many actually. It's been around, well, for ages. It's usually or usually back then the pilgrimage did that route, and now, well, sort of normal people, I would say, start doing that. You can do different routes. I did the one from just over the border from France, the Pyrenees, and then we walked up to, or you walk up to Santiago de Compostela. And yeah, you go from one place to the other, and they have these, well, hostels or a hotel or what do you call it in well, a sleeping place, like really simple and sort of really luxury and everything in between. And then you can stay there. And then it depends. I did about 25 to 30 kilometers per day. So yeah, and then you just walk, and it's like walking, walking, walking. It's a sort of meditation, really. Meet a lot of people, you get your stamp in a little passport you have, and then if you arrive at the Santiago de Compostela church, then you get your what is called your vignette, and your stamp in your passport that you finish the whole thing. And you can choose, they're really long ones, and they're shorter ones, the ones from Portugal going up, and the ones from like Spain going all the way, from south of Spain going all the way to Santiago. And mine was, or should have been, and I'll explain why I said it like that, but it should have been like 600, well, I think 23 kilometers. That's what we should be walking. It was about like a month. We counted it, so that it should be okay for like a month, no pause, just everyday walking. And yeah, having a coffee, having lunch. And then I was with my friend, so we did it together. And it's really, the funny thing was, before we went, we both thought that we would have like all these aha moments and well, all these things happening, and that's your expectation. But once you're there, it's because it's sort of meditation, your mind just becomes sort of quiet. No, there were some thoughts, but not like you think, oh, I'm going to think about it and then I'll come up with something. And then, no, it was the weather was really nice, because I like warm weather. It was so like sort of basic, and that's why you got back to yourself, if you understand what I mean. It's so basic. There's no, obviously you had your phone, but it was in my my rucksack. So you don't have these external influences. It's just the weather. You make sure you have coffee and some drinks. You have lunch, and in the evening we went out for dinner, and we gave ourselves one glass of rosé, and then you go to bed.
Mhm.
And the next day it's the same again, and it's really, yes, it's really nice. It's really nice. It's sort of back to nature, back to yourself, back to basics,
Mhm.
and and then when you get back, or even while you're there, but you don't really grasp it, it's things will change. So you do find the answers, but it's not like in a way of like looking for it and it'll come to you every night. No, it's
Mhm.
sort of, yeah, it flows to you.
Mhm.
That's yeah.
Interesting. And what made you decide to do that?
I like walking, obviously, and yeah, I think the feeling of the sort of need to come back to myself again, and the basic life, the simple life. You know what you have to do. It's just walking, just one foot in front of the other. You don't have to think about it. That's really nice for the mind. Um, and it's I always, well, for a long time I wanted to do it, and it just felt like she wanted to do it as well. And then one day we just said, well, what are we waiting for? You know, you can wait like till you're maybe 65 or whatever. There's never really a good time.
Mhm.
There's always something, kids, the money, work, whatever.
Mhm.
And I thought, it would be a shame just to think like the sort of what if.
Mhm.
What if now I can still do it? I'm healthy, I can walk. It's yeah, I like walking. I did most part actually on my flip flops,
Uh-huh.
which was, well, which people find quite funny. But
Mhm.
when they were looking at me and they said, "Oh no, look, good boots, and how can you walk on that?" But it's so freeing, you know.
Uh-huh.
It feels like freedom. It's nice. And I can walk there for hours, which I did every day.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I think it's the freedom actually what I experienced. The freedom, no worries, nothing. It's just a bit of food and the sun and walking, and that's it. And yeah, so I can recommend it to anyone.
So is it one of those things that it's a little bit addictive where you just want to go back again? Is that one of those things you would, is it the walk of a lifetime where you just do it once? Or is it one of those things where people go and they're like, I want to go next year?
Well, I met a few people like walking that they've done it before, maybe then like 10 years before, and now they were in a certain stage of their life, maybe like divorce or something like that. They wanted to find themselves back.
Hmm.
They came back again, maybe shorter, maybe walk with someone. So yeah, you do find a lot of people doing it again because of, I think, this feeling,
Hmm.
the freedom, and being on your own and still with people. But if you don't want to, you can still be on your own. It's safe. And yeah, so I would do it again. Actually, I would. Yeah, it would be really nice to do. Maybe part, maybe not that long, but a part. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's good. Yeah.
So let's talk about resilience. Obviously, starting out how you did, you're quite resilient because you made it alive to age 16 and
Mhm.
continued on, had a family. Now you're helping other people. Um, how does that resilience work for you in your life?
Yeah. Well, I think I would be two parts. One part is maybe that sounds a bit blunt, but it's like you have no choice, really. Like, obviously, when I was younger, I couldn't go anywhere, so I didn't literally have a choice there.
Mhm.
Later on, I did have a choice, but it's still something like, yeah, you don't have a choice. You have to deal with it. And at the same time, there's something, and I am convinced, like everyone has it, although maybe very far away. You have some sort of sliver of hope, that there is something in there. Even back then, I felt it with my mother, that there were many occasions when I thought, this is not right. This is not the way it should be. But then obviously been taking over what everything happened. But there's always something that sort of pushed me forward about not giving up. And obviously, um, there were moments that I wanted to give up, to be really honest, because no one, and me neither, is like strong all the time and, it's no problem, things like that. No, it's not like that. But it's that the slimmer of hope, you still feel you need to go on. And there was always, like, in my darkest moments, someone who, yeah, maybe not even know, maybe didn't know them, or we spoke about it and they sort of reached out with something which helped you forward. Like, say, where there were times when they have no money, then a friend came along, and she said, I put some money in your bank so you can buy some food. Or back then, when I was living in London, I had times as well when I had no money. And then a friend said, well, this is not the way it should be. I'll take you to the grocery. You pack everything for a week and I'll pay for you.
Mm.
And you don't have to give it back to me. That's okay. It's my gift. And that's what helped me along. And I think that helps other people as well. There's always, yeah, when you're in your sort of darkest moments
Mm.
and you don't know how to get out, because that's the sort of feeling, you don't know how to get out.
Mhm.
You think you've tried everything, and then there's someone who comes along and who did that. And that gives you trust that maybe things can change, because that's a feeling what propels you forward,
Mhm.
that you have the feeling it can change. Because that person comes along that gives you a bit of a boost, that you can, okay, well, maybe, let's say if it's applicable, apply for a job again. And
Mhm.
maybe if I do this, so yeah, you keep on going forward
Mhm.
with those three. What's it? The trust and the slimmer of hope, and someone who yeah, gives you a hand.
Mhm. Wonderful. So I was wondering, some people have morning routines or they have something they do daily to like get their mind in the right place, like to either start the day or throughout the day, just to be successful during that day, to not go back into old habits, but to actually create their day. Is there any morning routine or anything you do every day?
Not necessarily a morning routine, but what I do every day is checking in with my inner child. And that's what I teach my clients as well. The inner child needs to be part of you again. And usually what happens with trauma, that's what I did as well. I dissociated, but even if you don't dissociate, I always say it like this, that you put the little you in the hallway, and you left him there. And you start living your life, and then he or she is still there. Well, and then part of the healing, the inner child healing, part of you, the healing, the trauma, is getting that little one, well, next to you, really inside of you. So checking in with him or her feels a bit woo-woo, maybe if someone hears it for the first time, they think, yeah, but it's very tangible.
Mhm.
If you learn, it's very tangible. Then it is the connection with yourself. It's the identity, what I spoke about earlier, that connection with you, who you are deep inside. That's really powerful and really helpful. So that's what I learn my clients, and that's what I do myself as well. If I feel a bit off, or yeah, I'm not quite sure, then I'll check in, and then you'll know. You know, there's a dialogue, you know the answers, you get back to yourself, you feel, you give love, boundaries, hugs, whatever the little part of you needs
Mhm.
to get back to your, well, strong, solid self.
Mhm.
So that's what I do every day. Yeah. Apart from the good sleep and you know everything and exercising and food and rest and relaxation, that's
Mhm.
really important. But this for me is the most important thing.
And that makes sense. And I have a coach that uh, well, she was my former coach, and she coaches high profile people, a lot of C-suite type of people. And she
Mm.
said, you know what? Some of the biggest companies are being run by little kids. And she was talking about that,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
they haven't matured. They're still that little kid inside, even though they have this big persona, they
yeah.
still have the little kid running the show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you have to work on that. I'm sure she does that. She works on that, getting that little one, you know, into yeah, the healthy grown up. Basically, that's what you're doing. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, you're working with individuals, and then you also work with companies.
Yeah, depending on if it's the question coming from someone like in work, or maybe when someone coming with a question or a problem or a challenge, personal. So it could be both.
Mhm.
Uh, and depending, yeah, if someone is in a business situation, maybe difficult managing their team, maybe difficulty leveling up, all sorts of things, what they have problem with, and in the end of the day, you see that what you, the example you just give, you get back to this inner child bit,
Mhm.
because it's never really in their, sometimes, but it's never really in their experience, that they don't have the capacities or things like that. It's something inside, which, yeah, which is still hidden, and I'll make sure it's not hidden anymore, and we'll work on that, on the core issue, the root cause. Um, and then they can, yeah, manage their team or do the level up they want to do, or get the I don't know, skill up, whatever they want. So yeah, it could be via business, or it could be really some personal, that someone is having, yeah, codependency or the abandonment, attachment issues, relationship addiction, or the narcissism, what we spoke about.
Mhm. So do you usually work one-on-one with people, or do you ever work in groups? Does what you do, does it work in groups, or is it so personal that
It
it must be
is,
done one-on-one?
yeah, it is quite personal. I do couples as well, actually. So I do men, women, or I'll help men, women, and couples. Um, And the business side, if it's coming from like the business side, it could be like in groups, but depending what it is, because if we talk about communication and emotional intelligence, that's really something you can do within a group.
Mhm.
But I always notice when I do that, that there are certain individuals who need some like one-on-one, because they get triggered by things, and then obviously, well, you can't do it in front of the classroom.
Right.
You need to have sort of one-on-one. So that's usually what happens. Like if it's a group setting, there are few people who need or want like individual, and that's then part of the package. Yeah.
Got it. So how would someone know that they need your services? Like, what things would they be struggling with?
Well, the things I just said, well, usually it's like people feel they're stuck. They either, let's say for the personal side, they attract the same kind of partner, which doesn't work out. So they have like loads and loads, or with jobs as well. And the same sort of pattern repeats itself over and over again.
there comes a time that they think, oh, maybe I should do something about it. And then before that, they feel that they can't change it. They have sleeping problems. They maybe start drinking, so their addiction is starting to come up again. People with codependency, they find that they might attract a narcissist, or they might have a spouse, it's not working, but they have this problem with it in their work, with friends, with family, and everything. And they feel that they need to change, but they're stuck again, because it's an unconscious pattern. They can't get a grip on it. Someone with relationship addiction, they feel they can't be alone. So there's always has to be a new one. They break up and the next one comes along within a few days even.
Wow.
So they can't be on their own. So it's different scenarios. But the main theme is that they're stuck. They see the pattern. A lot of people I'll coach and help, they can tell me what the problem is from their perspective. Usually it's not really the problem, because there's always something which they can't access. But they read a lot. They spoken about it with friends. They heard some podcasts, and they try to manage it themselves. And they still sort of in the same loop, the same pattern. So if you notice anything, and then all the physical ailments you can get, the stress, and you can feel your life is stuck, is not moving anywhere, and you work really hard to change it, but you can't. That's the point when someone could feel like, oh, I need help to get out of it.
So if people wanted to work with you, do you have a website, for social media? Where can they find you and connect with you?
Yeah, well, I obviously have a website. It's metamindbreakthrough.com, and I'm all the socials under my own name, Ingeborg Mooiweer. I know it's not an easy one for English-speaking people, but I'm there. So if you put in my own name, that you can find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, even on TikTok. So I'm there, and I'm sharing my voice as well via podcast, and I'll be on the radio next week. I'll be doing a summit this Saturday on narcissism abuse survivors, actually. And I'll be in a magazine, so people can find me somewhere.
All right, so cool. So now a personal question. What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
What the question is, what gives me the most happiness and fulfillment in my life at the moment? Well, I would say the way we, and we is my son and me, my sons and me, got through last year. And we still the sort of three musketeers, so to speak, like we're still sort of together. What I said, I didn't really spoke about it, but it was a rough year. A lot of things happened for them as well in their personal life, and we're still as tight as we were before. So that gives me a lot of happiness. And then I must say, the helping of my clients, getting from the place where I have been as well to where they want to go, that gives me a lot of fulfillment. Yeah, so do those two things.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast and for sharing your wisdom and your stories and just being so vulnerable with them.
Thank you. Yeah, well, it's lovely to be here, and sharing my story and you listening, and I hope it'll help someone hearing it, that they think, okay, maybe I should do something about it, if they're stuck in a situation.
Exactly. So I have one last question before we finish.
Yeah.
What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Okay, I would say something I learn my clients as well. You have to feel it, or you need to feel it to heal it.
That.
And then you can move on. Because if you don't, you'll be stuck in the same thing. So that's that's my short tip. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Ingeborg. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you very much.